Welcome to Straight from the Muzzle, folks, where we are anything but straight. I'm Space.
And I'm Bean.
We welcome you guys to this show. Today's show. That's what I meant. Um,
Same difference. It's fine.
yeah. I don't think for like the life of it, I have ever nailed an intro correctly. But maybe that's my calling card.
Look, man, it's harder than it sounds.
Because it's like, we're not this it's not like a time of day. Like we are recording at a time of day, but like it's not like you're listening in at any specific day. So I have to go from welcome to tonight's show to welcome to today's show, and to transition to that I'm just like, fudge it, I'm not going to worry about it anymore. It's just so ridiculous.
Oh well, it's fine.
Hooray. God, it's so cold outside. Can I just tell you, like, 29 degrees. I don't know why, but for like an hour and a half, I was just chatting with an employee outside, had a jacket on, but it totally oblivious to how cold it was until I go into my car and my hands are like numb. Can't feel my toes. And I'm just like, I just want to get home. I just want to get home. So,
That's funny
cold.
because in Georgia today, no, it's not December. What the fuck is wrong with me? In
January,
the end of January, it was warm today. Like I could have worn a tank top, but it's supposed to snow this weekend. What?
Maybe
which that makes me laugh because snow. That's a myth,
right? Well, where you're at. But it's this giant like cold front that's coming out of nowhere from Canada. And so like a couple of days ago, this is the weirdest thing. So on Sunday, that was the blood moon, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so Sunday was the blood moon. And at first it was really cloudy, but then it became crystal clear. No clouds in the sky. And we could totally see the blood moon just fine. And so, of course, Felix and I go home thinking, well, it's probably not going to snow because they said the biggest snowstorm in like years was supposed to happen days prior to that, but it never came. Fast forward, thank goodness I woke up an hour earlier than normal. I look outside. It is about a foot of snow already on the ground. I'm like, where the hell did this thing come from? Like, it just came out of nowhere. And I was just like, unbelievable. It caused issues getting to work and then getting out of work because the snowplow decided to plow like a foot and a half of snow up against everyone's vehicles. So I couldn't get out. Like I even tried to make trails for my tires to get out, but it couldn't. It was the most frustrating thing ever. It was awful.
I don't like snow, so that sounds very frustrating.
It is, but luckily, hopefully in your case, it'll look like it's falling, but it's really just melting. Maybe it's hail.
Yeah, last year I was planning on going to Florida, and me leaving got delayed because it snowed about maybe 2 inches, and then 2 hours later, it melted. All of it melted, and it was sunny and nice and warm, and I was like, why did you even inconvenience me with snow?
Do you know you can get thunder snow? Have you ever heard of that one?
No, that sounds like a drug.
No. Okay, so in Chicago, if it's like, it's already windy in Chicago, but if it's snowing and the I guess like the climate is just right, you can get thunder and lightning in the middle of a blizzard. And I thought it was a myth, but then someone recorded it and the news was reporting on it. And I'm like, what the hell? Is that even possible?
Hey, I don't like that.
How is that possible?
I don't like that.
Oh, electrical storms are the worst. Ugh. They're not thunder.
I like how we started off this podcast with a general, hey, how's the weather? And then it got really intense with thunder snow.
Thunder snow.
That's my new persona's name.
That would be awesome. That would be my persona's porn star name. Thunder Snow.
Thunder Snow.
Yeah. Anyways, so today you had pointed out something that you had been seeing circulating on Twitter as of recent.
Yes.
Styles, and I thought it was really interesting as we were kind of talking about it. And then we're like, oh, no, let's save it for the show. So.
Okay, so basically the actual topic of today's show, not Thunder Snow. We are talking about the different popular... Absolutely. We're talking about the popular art styles throughout the different generations of the furry fandom. And this topic was inspired, and we're actually going to be referencing this. It's a timeline drawing that Sad Theropod on Twitter drew out. So we have 5 different art styles we're going to be talking about.
Which, side note,
from the 90s all the way up to today.
That person is also, we learned that it's a dinosaur thing. A theropod. Had no idea. We'd no idea. But now we know.
Yeah, we Googled it.
So sad
The more
theropod
you
had to
know.
know, like, what is this? Anyways, back to the drawing that you guys can't see.
We'll put a link to it
Yeah,
in
so you
the
guys can pull it
description if
up.
you want to look at it. But I will just be talking about it. I'm sure if you've been in the fandom for a while, even if you haven't, you'll probably get what we're talking about. But if you want just more visuals, I'm looking at this drawing while we're talking. So Sad Theropod did a great job pinning out these uh, stereotypical generational styles, and I love it. I love this so much because
I love
I
their
have
side
seen all of
notes.
these.
They have some funny side notes in here.
Oh yeah, we'll read them out loud as we go. It's great. So I'll describe the picture as a whole real quick. Basically, there are 5 headshots going in sequential order from the 90s, the 2000s, the late 2000s, and then current day. So the the different ones listed is we have Toonie 90s, Holotype 2000s, Scene and Shonen for the late 2000s, and then the Thick Tins.
Yeah,
I
the
love
thick
that.
tens, like,
Thick is in all caps, by the way. It's important.
and it's not thick with the K, it's thick with 2 C's. So
It's
that's how
thick with two
serious it
C's.
is. I love I love though in the middle you have the scene and by shonen, and above it says the thinning. Like I didn't even think that was a word, thinning, but they made it a word. So there you go.
It's a word now.
So I don't know. Let's say I guess we start with the 90s.
Oh yeah. So the first one that is listed in this little timeline is the Toonie 90s, and the 90s is when the furry fandom really started to kick off. A lot of you know, if you've actually like researched or seen some documentaries on YouTube, that the furry fandom used to be connected to sci-fi. So a lot of sci-fi comics and movies had anthropomorphic animals or aliens. And people started connecting that with funny animal cartoons, which is, as most people know, is like the Looney Tunes, anything that's a silly cartoon that involves anthropomorphic animals. That's what funny animal cartoons were back in the 90s. So that's why the timeline starts in the 90s, because that's just when the fandom actually started to kick off. We had the first convention in the 90s, and so that's just the starting point of the common art style timeline.
Holy crap. Okay, so I didn't realize that this is a thing. So if you go into Fur Affinity as you're listening to this, I highly recommend doing a search and then do a search for the word toonie, set your sort by date and in ascending order, and then search, and you'll see from the dawn of time of Fur Affinity from 14 years
Oh
ago,
my
you'll see
gosh.
artwork from 14 years ago up until now. It's kind of
What?
it's cool.
I want to try
It's
that.
actually really cool. It's really interesting to see everyone's art style because all these different artists all pretty much have the same style. It's
Oh
really
my gosh.
interesting.
Yeah, because like artists will have their own take on things, but ultimately you can see a lot of trends, which is cool.
Yeah, a lot of these, and they're all pretty much just toony. Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm sure if
Oh
I
my
change
gosh.
like the phrasing a little bit, it'll pull up more stuff. But right now, it's just a lot of very familiar, like Wile E. Coyote style art.
Yeah. Oh, I love that. So the different characteristics that is under the Toonie 90s headshot in this timeline is huge cartoon eyes, Looney Tunes, and mostly realistic markings. Which I did find the realistic marking part interesting, and it's true if you think about it. When I go and look back on like furry zines that were in the 90s, because that was a really popular thing back then, people would actually pay physical money because you didn't have a lot of like the internet. You couldn't go and look up pictures, so you would pay for zines that are just in person. You can look at the art. And the realistic markings, you'd think if people were making sci-fi comics or like funny animal comics that they would have still outlandish markings, but it's true. When I go back and look at characters like that, they do tend to have mostly realistic
Yeah, a
markings.
lot of these seem to be a little bit like more, and I'm not using the word basic as like a derogatory term. I'm using it in the fact that it's very basic. So it's using a
That
lot
was a
of
style, yeah.
that was the style. Like I'm looking at a lot of foxes have like the classic white underbelly and then the regular color on the outside. Dragons have the typical, scales on the nose, but that's about it. Not a lot of exploration as far as like design goes. It's just more or less, I guess you could say, yeah, realistic markings. It's really
Yeah, very simple, which makes sense because in the 90s, when the popular cartoons were out, like Looney Tunes and whatnot, when you animate, especially traditionally, takes forever. You don't want to design like complicated characters that you're going to have to animate. It would just double the time. So I guess that influence in the animation just went over to the furry artists of the time.
Yeah, wow, that's really. I'm actually having fun going through and looking at all the different art styles here. This is really interesting, and every page is just consistent.
Mm-hmm.
Tons of. This is the interesting thing. Out of every page that I'm looking on Fur Affinity, at least 2 or 3 of the images are kangaroos. So I wonder if that was a fad back at
I
one point in
don't
time.
know. That's possible, yeah.
Really interesting. I would need some more. Oh, I found a Charizard, but they're called a Buffazard.
Oh no.
I'm gonna send it to you.
Oh, thank you. I feel blessed.
Consider that set. There's one. You guys can't see.
Oh,
this.
that's hot.
Oh, it gets better.
Oh
this
no.
one's. It looks like he's sudsing up.
Oh no. This is really conflicting with my brain because I love Charizards, but I'm a lesbian.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, what is
Mm-hmm.
this?
It's
Oh,
good
he's so
stuff.
shiny. That's not how a dragon penis would work.
Anyways,
It looks like it's coming out of a belly
wait, there's a
button.
penis.
It
Oh, I
looks
didn't
like
see
it's
that
coming
bottom
out of
part.
a belly button.
It kind of does,
Do you
yeah.
take constructive criticism?
Anatomically incorrect. This was 10 years ago. 10 years ago.
That's
not
really
bad
not
for
bad for
10
10
years
years
ago.
ago. Like,
10 years ago. So the image we're looking at, you guys can't see it. And I'm not going to link it. But it looks like, actually, it kind of looks like something you could get away with if you were going to do a furry
yeah, it does.
webcomic. So, yeah, it's pretty good. And that shows you right there, 10 years passing by. If I were to look at this right now and not see the date, I would assume that it was done today. So, not bad for this artist, assuming they're the original. Anyways, back to back to the show. Side tangent is over.
So why don't we move on in the timeline to the holotype? I don't know why it's called that. I guess I'll
I
figure
really
it out.
wanted it to be like holographic looking. That's the first thing I think of. But I think
It
holotype
sounds
is
like
referring to 3-dimensional. I think that's what they're trying to go for here. Because if you
maybe.
look at the toonie, between the toonie and everything else, holotype seems to be the only one that shows like it's almost more tilted on the side profile so that you see more 3D effect, not without actually having like 3D. I think it's more detail, but I don't understand what holotype would be. Why
it sounds like an animation term. I would have to ask my girlfriend. She'd probably know.
Right now. Holotype.
Okay,
Go ahead and explain that real quick.
So the Holotype 2000s, it is very much a Disney looking style, art style, and the different characteristics that the artist here listed under Holotype 2000s is children of the Disney Renaissance, standardized fursuits, simple markings, and they are eternal. So I'm gonna go by these point by point because these are a little more complicated than the Toonie characteristics. The children of the Disney Renaissance, most of you know what the Disney Renaissance is. That is the handful of years where Disney was really booming. They were coming out with a lot of single cell animated pictures. So a lot of the Lion King, a lot of the Lady and the Tramp, a lot of the princess movies. So every kind of classic that you can think of, that was during the Disney Renaissance. And because it was so popular, I guess a lot of furries in the fandom were kind of taking aspects of Disney's art style and applying it to their own.
I have an explanation as to what this is. This would make sense easily. Holotype is a single specimen designated or otherwise fixed as the name bearing the type of species name when it was first described. So I guess you could say, if I look at the image here, based on this, this is probably when people's names or um more original characteristics were starting to be like developed in like
Ah,
artwork. It's the best way I
yeah.
can say that one. Otherwise, I mean, don't take my word for it. Go Google it. That's what I did.
The next point is standardized fursuits, which makes sense. When you look at this art style, you really do see a fursuit in it as well. Like a lot of fursuit references, which are reference drawings that are specifically drawn to help a fursuit maker convert the art into a costume. Uh, a lot of fursuit styles kind of are based around this holotype 2000s artwork. And simple markings is also just a characteristic of the time and also applies to a lot of fursuits. Some people are getting ballsy with the markings on fursuits. I just finished a fursuit commission that had some pretty complex markings, uh, but in the 2000s that was a lot more popular. And then the last point made me laugh. The eternal.
That's what it is. It's because I pointed out. I'm like, I've noticed that like the holotype could also be in between the Bishonen and the thick tens. It really can fit into any time zone, really, because it's used over and over and over again. So I would
Yeah.
it can't be just stuck in one time period. It moves
Yeah, it moves around. It's eternal. You're gonna see this art style for a
everywhere.
while. Even if like there are other popular styles at the time, you'll always see this one around. I feel like it's it's what a lot of people gravitate to, especially when they're first learning how to draw.
You know what? I don't think it'll ever go away. And the reason I say that is because think about it. In the time that we're going right now, where everything's just like tech everything, I know that they've already started to play with holograms, like actual holograms. But right now, what they're doing is they're developing it with water. So your hologram is projected through the water, so it looks like your actual face or your person is right there in front of you that you can touch. I can see holotype coming back into here. Can you imagine if you could do a 3D in person, not art style on the computer, but like you could walk around the damn thing and see see your persona on all sides. How awesome would that be?
That would
That
be
would be
really
some
cool.
like next level shit right there. Not happening anytime soon, but I can see that going back there. Holotype will
Fun to
always
think
be
about.
around. Yeah. Anyways, I'm gonna be full of these random side tangent, useless facts.
So the next thing in the timeline, which is they're kind of connected, but it's seen in by shonen, and this block is called the thinning of the late 2000s. So holotype was early 2000s, and the thinning is the late 2000s.
It's just that's such an
The
interesting like
thinning.
the thinning. I don't know. It's just weird.
I like it because it's true. It's true. A lot of these characters were so like lanky, and it makes me. I don't know why, if it was just a style preference or if it had to do with like body
Oh yeah, I could see
image
that.
of the time or of the age or anything like that. Because I mean, at least for me, a lot of these styles, I guess, specifically with the 2000s up to the thick tens, for me, my art evolved kind of through this timeline, which I'm sure is not the case for everybody. But I started off trying to draw like the holotype. I failed, so I went into the scene and by shonen stage when I was really young, and it's a lot of edgy stuff.
My God, where does she? Sorry, I'm just keep going.
Okay, so the two blocks in here, we'll start with scene. They are connected, but I'm just gonna go in order for sake of convenience. The scene timeline is has emo furries, a lot of piercings, thin. The neon rain begins, so there was a lot of neon colors, and probably has a Japanese name, which is so it's so true. It's so fucking true, though.
That's what a Japanese
I think
name.
it's just connected to a lot of anime, which is why Baishonen is that's an anime term, this anime manga term, which makes sense.
Where does she store all this? Sorry, Twilight Saint. You guys might know. That you might recognize the name because we've featured them a few times in the past. Every time I'm just side tangenting here. Every time I'm on Fur Affinity, I swear to God, I see a new fursuit dance video with a new fursuit. So I can't tell if it's her fursuit
They
or if it's
are.
someone else's. But if it's her fursuit, that's 13 freaking fursuits, man. Why do you need so many?
Yeah, she has a lot.
She doesn't need that many. That's so ridiculous. That's as
Oh,
bad as
God.
like people having, like a shoe addiction, or in my case, other addictions. I don't
Oh,
know.
addiction? Huh?
No.
Ah, ha, ha. Eh.
Damn, she's like right up there with that one fursuit that has like different versions of it from different
Oh,
makers, but they're
cyber?
all, yeah. It's almost as bad as
Cyber.
Cyber's
Well,
addiction.
Cyber is the fursuit maker of Made for You,
Mm,
which is one of the most successful fursuit
mm,
building companies ever.
mm, mm,
And they get a
mm.
lot of their cyber suits from trading with other makers. Like, I'll make you a suit if you make me a cyber suit. So
Interesting.
it's
Yeah. Okay.
it's fascinating to me. I'm not going to shame people for having a lot of fursuits because, bitch, I want that. But
I mean, I wish I had that money to have that many fursuits, but then again, I wouldn't
I
do
feel like
anything
I
with them.
still wouldn't have that many fursuits if I had the money. But I still would, like, I don't know. They're supporting artists by buying their work, so that's
True.
cool.
That's true. Okay. So, Bai Shonen. That's a weird
Bai
name.
Shonen. Bai Shonen is anime influenced, also slender, are featured in a lot of comics and have a lot of face markings, and also probably has a Japanese name. Um, Looking at the differences between the scene and the Bai Shonen, scene is like, I guess, more edgy, while Bai Shonen is more like an elegant edgy.
I feel like I see a lot of the scene in Bai Shonen in a lot of animated projects on YouTube,
Mm-hmm.
even as of recent, and I think it's because it's just easier to draw and it's probably easier to animate. But other than that, I don't see like I don't get why you would stick with that style, especially if you have a better style, unless this is what you're familiar with and it works for you.
Honestly, I will be honest here. I feel like the seinen by shonen stages are stepping stone styles. I haven't seen many artists per se stay in this style. And I see a lot of young furries drawing in this style.
Yeah,
So it might be just like an experimental phase, or when you're young, you tend to hyperfixate on a lot of things like emo culture or anime, things like that. And a lot of animators on YouTube tend to be young furries, so that also might be why you see a lot of seinen by shonen
possible.
style on YouTube. Because I know back when I was a young furry, animating on YouTube was the big thing. I was one of those scene wolf animators back in the day. So
I wonder if it's just easier to draw the seinen by shonen, because if you look at a lot of beginner artists, all of their artwork is like really skinny. It's like they don't know proportions, and so perhaps these two, like you call them stepping stones, maybe this is what people usually start off with, and then they either backspace into like holotype or toonie, and then somehow develop their art style based off of that. I don't know. That could be.
yeah, that's totally possible.
I mean, I mean, except for me, I don't draw thin like that because I have no reason to.
I used to. I used to draw thin like that because it was like the thing, the way to draw back in the day. And it was also easier to draw because I didn't have to worry about anatomy as much. Like when you're young, you don't tend to focus on that as much. You just want to draw. You just want to animate for funsies. And seen in Shonen styles, Shonen tends to be more accurate with anatomy, but still thinner. Um, but still, it's like you don't have to think about it.
I feel like I've seen this style before. The Bai Shonen style, I've seen it very familiar. God, I can't think of the artist on YouTube, and it's gonna drive me nuts now. Oh, I bet Felix would know, but I'm not gonna bother him. Whatever. Um, there's like two artists that we follow, and they're the kind that do like the like 10-second blips, and then every once in a while, like every 6 months or so, they unleash this music video, and it's always like this style. What kills me though is that it gets like thousands upon thousands of views, and I'm like, if they can get thousands and thousands of views on such basic artwork, what am I doing wrong? So it just makes me think like, okay, maybe I'm taking what are they doing here? How are they doing this? I don't know. It drives me up the wall, like just
Yeah, it's kind of like
everything,
looking at a piece
because I can't figure it out.
of modern art that's just like a red dot on a canvas, and people are trying to sell it for $20 million or whatever. That's exaggerated, but still, you're like, it's a red dot on a canvas.
Oh, it symbolizes freedom, but at the same time encapsulates the one person inside. I don't know. It's something like that.
It's the Japanese flag.
There you go. Just Americanized. Stupid. Yeah, but I see a lot of this kind of artwork right here, seen and by Shonen most definitely on YouTube more than I see Toonie, Holotype, or Thick Tens.
Yeah. I feel like Toonie, out of all of these, I think Toonie is the rarest. Like this Looney Tune style Toonie.
I know a few artists that do
I
Toonie,
do
but
as
it's
well.
not often you see it. Yeah, it's very, like you said, it's really rare. And when they do it, it's good artwork too. So it's kind of like a treat to see
Oh,
it.
yeah, definitely. And something I've noticed with the fursuiting aspect of any of this, a lot of super toony artists who also have fursuits tend to be fantastic actors in their costumes. Like they know how to exaggerate, and they know how to be in character. They don't just kind of stand and walk around in a dog costume. They like I've seen a few that carry around like balloon hammers, and a lot of them that talk in exaggerated voices. It's awesome. I love seeing like toony 90s
Oh
fursuits,
yeah.
especially when they act like that. It's the best.
Now, moving on to the next one, I almost feel like we should be like copy paste holotype after Shonen to the Thick Tens, because once again,
Yeah.
this is why it's eternal, because it goes this way. The reason
Yeah.
I say
Oh,
is for
definitely.
anyone who's going to look at this picture, you're going to go from how did someone go from Shonen to fast forward Thick Tens? There is no way to compare styles because they're so completely different. They're on opposite ends of the spectrum, which that also I'm
Yeah.
like, we're missing something, but it's probably the holotype.
Yeah, the holotype I think can be placed in between any of these, especially between Bishonen and Thick Tens, because it's a harder art style to do. So if you're a beginning artist, you're probably not going to start with holotype, especially if you're young. But if you,
Unless you're talented.
yeah, unless you're super talented, have some natural talent in there. But if you start with Scene or Bishonen, a lot of the times you'll gravitate, gravi- gravitate,
I'm gonna
gravitate to holotype.
gravitate.
Ah! You're gonna gravitate to holotype before you figure out your own style. And again, a lot of these they're just popular art styles. Not everybody fits into these slots, but you can definitely see aspects of some of these put into a lot of people's art styles.
Oh, that's interesting. The wording on thick, by the way, we're about to go into it. It's not just something that the artist came up with. It's an actual search thing.
Yeah, it is.
But it's not what I thought it would be. That's interesting. Seems like thick tens are more body positive.
Oh,
That's
definitely,
probably what I would say.
definitely.
Thick tens. Go ahead and explain what thick tens are.
The thick tens. Okay, so all of the characteristics on this one is quote maws and paws. So like a lot of heavy focus on the hand paws and the mouth. It's very round. There's a lot of hyenas as a popular species in the thick tens. The Steven Universe influence, which also makes sense with a lot of the like simplistic shapes. Shiny.
Good lord, I love Steven
Oh
Universe.
god, me too. Shiny. Shiny, yeah,
So
like you
shiny.
see a lot of shines on like the individual toe beans and on the nose and in the eyes and da 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 da. And then more androgynous. You see a lot of like agender characters, they them characters. There's a lot more like gender expression or a lot more androgyny. Like in Scene and Bishonen, you could typically tell which one is like the sexy male and the edgy female. But Thick Tens is definitely more androgynous.
A good example of the thick tens would be Deer Dog's artwork, and we can link that in there too. She posted in our staff chat, and she was showing us how her art has changed from at one point in time when she first started to where she is now. And I almost feel like a good part of it, like towards the middle, starts to kind of teeter to the thick tens. Not by no means. It's not like thick as in like the body style, but very much like with the paws, her mouth. It's the kind of like an interesting hybrid of Thick Tens meets Toonie,
Yeah,
is
I
what
was
I
about
would
to say
say,
that. Deer Dog seems to be a good mix between Toonie and Thick Tins. I know my
which is a
artwork
really cool thing to do. Oh yeah,
definitely goes into Thick Tins.
I know why I love your artwork though. Your artwork is
Which is
definitely
funny
Thick
because I
Tens.
never even thought about, like, I guess my own artwork following any kind of trend. I've always just kind of drawn thicker characters, but I guess exaggerating certain aspects like hands and mouths. I don't think I exaggerate mouths much, but I definitely do with paws. Basically, thick paws is my crutch because I hate drawing hands, so I'm like, if it's big paws, it's just a circle.
I think if I look at it, I don't really have my character or my persona ever drawn um out of the thick tens. Mostly because it's a bear and bears are usually pretty thick, so that's about
Well, I've seen some holotype and some realism. I know before we were friends I drew you like it was a very I think it was more Bishonen. It was kind of realistic, a picture of space.
yeah, but there are those, but like I guess it just depends on maybe what artist I went to because it every artist was just a little bit different.
I think a
But if I
lot of
look
your
at like
older artwork of him
yeah,
is more Bishonen or holotype because it was a more serious character. And now that he's more bubbly, happy go lucky, it goes into thick tins.
more of me kind
Mm-hmm.
of a thing. Interesting. That is really interesting. I've never really looked at it until now. Huh. Interesting. Well, where would you put feral? Would that be within
Oh, that would
the
definitely be
vicinity?
with Scene and by Shonen, and
Okay.
some holotype as well. Thick tins and Toonie tends to be more anthropomorphic, but holotype 2000s could be anthro or feral. Feral is especially with holotype because of the Disney influence, and a lot of Disney movies like Lion King, for example, had a lot of feral characters. Scene and by Shonen, I see a lot more feral characters, and you can even see in how these headshots are drawn. You can see like the sloping of the back. You can kind of tell that these headshots were intentionally feral, most likely. And all the
Speaking
animations
of,
and whatnot in the early 2000s when I was on for YouTube, everybody animated feral characters. There's
do you have
rarely anyone
do you
who
have
did
animated
anthro.
characters on YouTube?
I used to. I destroyed my old account. You can't find any of it.
I can find anything on the internet. You have no
No,
idea.
remember you tried. I told you my backstory about how people
Oh,
like
that's
sent me death
right.
threats because my fursuits were ugly. And so I like completely erased my name and disappeared for a year or two.
That's right. Okay. And I could find traces, but I couldn't find like
Yeah.
actual leads anywhere. It was very hard.
I have some old artwork, but I don't have any of my animations. I wish I did because I know they were bad, but I do have some old artwork saved on my computer. They were definitely the Bishonen-esque style.
Speaking of Lion King, you mentioned it. Have you seen the new trailer
I have, yes.
for it? I'm excited.
I think they could have done a
The
lot
last
better
time,
with color theory, but it's still animated. Like they're
yeah,
calling it live action, but no, it's animated. Everything on here is animated. It's just realism. So I'm still excited to see it and see their take on it. I think it's going to be kind of weird if they stick with the singing and dancing aspects. Because if I see just a feral lion that just looks like a feral lion singing Hakuna Matata, I think I'm going to shit my pants because that would just be weird.
they also have Aladdin too. I just saw the trailer for Aladdin. I'm excited for that one. That one looks legit. Do you know why they're doing this all of a sudden? Do you have any reason?
To make money off of nostalgia.
Nope, that's not it at all. When these cartoons,
It's probably part of it.
it may be, but in these when these movies were created, they have a license on them, and after a certain period of time, that license goes away, and it's free game for anyone to do whatever they want to. It's kind of like Zelda. At one point in time, Zelda could be made by anyone, and of course, Nintendo went back down on that, and no one can make the Zelda games now unless Nintendo's involved. So same type of thing with Disney. A lot of their old films were starting to come up, and rather than have their name and that type of movie that they created open to the market, they would create it by relicensing it as a new movie. So thus becomes these reality, more like realistic movies coming out, and that's probably the all you'll see of these movies until like maybe 10, 20 years more down the road. Boom, and they'll come out again.
To be fair, a lot of their movies, especially during the Renaissance of Disney, were based off of folk
Oh
tales,
yeah,
which is why you could still make a movie about Snow White. You could still make a movie
Cinderella,
about
right?
Cinderella. You can't even Ariel, you get all that. You can still do that and you still see it. There's some Rapunzel movies or whatever, and they can't copyright that.
But
So
they can copyright this, like their screen, like their script, their storyline of how they have done it. But
yeah.
they can't copyright, like you said, like the actual tale itself can't be copyrighted. But what they've done with it, no one can touch it because
Hmm.
it's theirs. Plus, I wouldn't be surprised if Disney owns it now because Disney owns everything. They just bought Fox. So now, no, they just bought Sony. So now they own Marvel finally. Oh, I'm so glad. They own part of Marvel, but not all of it. So that means we can now have X-Men movies that are supposed to be the way they should have been when they were first made instead of being out of order and totally fucked up. So,
I just have a hard time trusting Disney now. I've been getting frustrated with them, but that could be a topic for another show.
yeah. Oh, that would be a fun show. There are four major sectors of this world that is owned by four major companies. Be really interesting to see if you could tell what company is owned by what. It's a fun little thing. I love looking at it. We'll do that another time. So I think what would be interesting is I challenge anyone to listen to this and then maybe send us an email by writing to us at talktothemuzzle@gmail.com. Look at the style here and see if you can apply any of the artwork that you have commissioned to any of these five styles and then email us, link us to different things. Say, hey, I think this would fit into here and this would fit into here. I want to see it. I want to see, the differences between everyone's, artwork and like, it's just kind of fun to see something like that. Plus it's interaction and I get to meet you, not obviously physically, but I can write back to you. That'd be kind of fun. It's just fun to interact with our listeners. That's just kind of like that's always been the thing.
Definitely.
So I want to see that though. That'd be really interesting. No, I don't want to look at that.
Me too. I want to go back into all of my commission artwork and maybe art that I've drawn over the years and see if I can pick out any. I know I could definitely find the scene by Shonen and Thick Tens. I don't know if I could find any holotype. I know I've drawn that style before, but I'd have to
I
find
know an artist
it.
that still draws on holotype. She's actually really good, but it's like a love-hate relationship, so I probably won't ever reference her.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah. And I know someone who still draws on the toonie. It's so interesting. That particular style of toonie that they chose on that headshot is exactly how a friend of mine draws. So I'm just like, wow, it's like they.
A lot of the holotype does look the same, to be fair. If you draw in that style, then you can find a couple other artists that also draw in that style. You might have little things where you could pick out, oh, this artist did this one, this artist did that one. But a lot of the time, holotype styles tend to be about the
It
same.
would be an interesting tech if For Affinity ever had the money to do this and someone could develop the code for it. It'd be really interesting if you could set up a technology where you could upload your art. So we already have the capability of obviously uploading art and everyone can see it, but it would be even cooler if you could upload your art to, let's say, a site like For Affinity, and you could identify what style of art it was based off of the drawing. So that way you could be like, this style was here. We recommend these artists. Kind of like how Google does it. You type into Google and it gives you recommendations based off of that. It'd be kind of neat. It'd also be really scary, but kind of neat.
That would be cool.
I'd be up for it.
I'd experiment.
Yeah, why not? Who wouldn't experiment? Anyways, that's our show. You guys are always welcome to email us at talktothemuzzle@gmail.com, like we've noticed, or like we've said. You can listen to our stuff on practically any site across the board. So we got like Stitcher, Amazon, iTunes, Google Play, and then whoever else has what out there.
We also have our episodes on YouTube, on our YouTube channel. So if for some reason you're at home and you want to listen there, it is also available. And we have a Facebook account that we're getting set up. If you want to talk to us there, if you don't feel comfortable emailing, you can comment on some of our stuff over there as well.
We also have Telegrams. You can always reach out to us on Telegram. And if you just want to reach out to any of us individually, you can always go into Telegram and just look at the group and just find either, I think my handle is Jedi Knight Space. And
Yes.
then your handle is
Mothsicles.
yeah, Mothsicles. And then you could just message
Mm-hmm.
either one of us. I'm pretty laid back. If I see a message come in, I'll look at it and I'll probably message you back, most likely. Unless I'm working, then I won't message you back. Because I'm busy dealing with other people's accounting problems. Good Lord. So, yeah, feel free to message us, email us, tell us about yourself, tell us your story. And then, of course, if you have recommendations, like you want a specific artist, maybe you want a specific guest or a topic that we haven't done yet, let us know. The only way we can improve is if by people telling us so. So, there you go. There's my spiel.
Oh, oh yes. Yeah, please email us and give us any suggestions or criticisms. We are totally open. But for now, we will see you in the next episode.
Have a good one.